the first thing that happened was the tourist guide saying, after the earthquake in 1953, and I thought, what earthquake? I never heard of an earthquake in 1953. Well, it turns out that this was an earthquake which had destroyed Kefalonia and also the island next door, Zakynthos. And that's what made my ears prick up, because I like novels with big events. I mean, because big events, big drama gives you more to write about. Mainly because you get extremes of human behavior arising out of those big events, you know. So that's what made me interested. And then I heard that the Italians had occupied the island during the war and had got on reasonably well with the local Greeks. They didn't have any theories about racial superiority, for example, the way the Germans did. And of course, when the Italians dropped out of the war, the Germans turned on their former allies, and there was a massacre of Italian soldiers on that island. And that's really what got me interested. Because the Greeks and the Italians on that island got on pretty well, I thought, well, here's an opportunity for a Romeo and Juliet story, it's obviously far from a new idea, you know, a couple who shouldn't be together falling in love. And that was the germ of it. I got quite fired up about this, and while my partner, my girlfriend Caroline, was sort of sitting in a cave with a wet towel on her head because it was so hot, I hired a motorcycle, and I motorcycled all over the island collecting ideas. When I got home, I got in touch with the curator of the Historical Museum in Kefalonia, and she sent me a long reading list. We are pretty lucky in the UK in that you can order books from library to library, so I even had books coming from Ireland. And by sheer good luck, at that time, my neighbours were Greek. So I just had to go next door to find out how to say, you know, well, anything. And one day, by an absolute miracle, somebody turned up next door who had been in the earthquake. You know, so I had an eyewitness account of what it was like. And that's how it came about. It was actually a huge risk, because I'd been doing really well with my Latin American novels. I'd actually earned enough to stop being a teacher, which was my lifetime's ambition. So I was already quite pleased with myself. And the book just took off by word of mouth. In a most extraordinary way. I mean, it didn't get much promotion or anything, but it spread by word of mouth until it sort of became a phenomenon.
Wonderful. And Louis, I know that you have a collection of stringed instruments, so I just want to find out, in terms of your love of stringed instruments, what or who came first, Captain Corelli or the mandolin?
Actually, what came first was a classical guitar.
Okay.
When I was a young man, the only way you could get a girlfriend was by having a car or playing the guitar. Those were the days when we all had sort of long hair and big sideburns, and it was very important to play the guitar. And so I went to a shop with my brother-in-law, and I bought, at the age of 17, and bought a guitar for £17, which I still have, and which my daughter is now learning to play on.
Okay.
Sophie's learning from my first guitar. And but the thing is, if you're a guitar player, sooner or later you're bound to get a mandolin, because you can transfer the skills from one instrument to another relatively easily. So I always had a mandolin anyway. And when I was writing the book, I got interested in it more and more. I started playing it to get myself in the mood, you know, as if I was Captain Corelli. And I listened to a lot of mandolin music, both traditional music and classical music, on my record player and my CD player. A lot of our important composers actually did write for mandolin, including Beethoven, who wrote 4 sonatas for it. Vivaldi wrote for it. Hummel wrote a mandolin concerto. So there was an awful lot more of it than I would have known if I hadn't dabbled in it. And I kept up the interest for a very, very long time afterwards. And now when I play it, I normally play, Greek traditional music, because there's nothing like that for cheering you up.
Thank you. And Louis, your novels contain a wonderful assortment of well-developed characters. Have any of your readers become convinced that some of your characters are based on people they know?
Oh my goodness, yes. I got a letter from somebody on a Greek island who said, I knew Captain Corelli, but he played the piano. Somebody turned up on Kefalonia who was exactly like Dr. Yanis. And I spoke to him, and he said, yes, I used to get paid in chickens. The story got about, a true story, that my father had fallen in love with an Italian girl when he was, at the end of the Second World War, when he ended up in Vicenza. And so one of the tabloid newspapers decided that my father was the original Captain Corelli. He was well pleased about that.
Oh, wow.